I grew up in a small Kentucky town with more broken dreams than streetlights. My father left when I was 8. My mother worked 2 jobs and still went to bed hungry some nights. I learned early that no one was coming to save us. When she got sick, I dropped out of school to pay the bills. I took whatever work I could find. Plumbing, roofing, cleaning grease traps in diners. Then one summer, I landed a job fixing air conditioners. It paid $12 an hour. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest. I stayed late, asked questions, learned every trick I could. I studied manuals until midnight and watched tutorials until sunrise. Every mistake became a lesson. Every burn mark on my hands meant I was closer to freedom. By 25, I was the best technician in the company. But being the best wasn't enough. I wanted something of my own. So I saved every dollar I could. I lived in my mom's basement. Drove an old truck with a cracked windshield and bald tires. Skipped vacations, skipped nights out, skipped anything that cost extra. After 3 years, I had enough to start a business. Just one truck, one set of tools, and a cheap phone plan. I called it Blue Ridge Climate Solutions. At first, it was just me and endless hours. I worked 70 hours a week, sometimes more. I ate cold sandwiches on rooftops and fixed broken units in snowstorms. People said I was crazy. Maybe I was. But little by little, it worked. A restaurant hired me for maintenance. Then a hospital. Then an office building. Word spread fast. People liked that I showed up when I said I would. They liked that I never overcharged. I wasn't the smartest guy, but I was reliable. That became my reputation. By 30, I had 6 trucks and 8 employees. We handled commercial contracts across 3 counties. The company pulled in close to $1 million a year. I bought a modest house and paid it off in cash. No loans, no debts. I thought I had finally escaped the struggle. Mom cried the day I told her she'd never have to work again. She said I'd built something out of nothing. I thought she was right. For the first time, I felt proud to look in the mirror. I wasn't rich, but I was free. Every scar, every sleepless night had led me here. I believed hard work was enough to guarantee happiness. I believed love would find me when the time was right. What I didn't know was that success would attract someone who only loved the shine. Someone who saw my life not as a story of grit, but as a prize to claim. And soon, the woman who smiled at me across a wedding dance floor would turn my success into my punishment. But back then, I couldn't see it. I was too busy celebrating survival to notice the storm on the horizon. I met Madison at my friend Ryan's wedding on a humid June evening. She was the maid of honor, tall, confident, glowing under the lights. Her laugh cut through the noise like a song I didn't know I loved yet. She told me she was an influencer building her personal brand. I didn't even know what that meant, but I nodded anyway. Her phone never left her hand. Every few minutes she took photos, adjusting her smile until it looked perfect. She talked about followers, engagement rates, and sponsorship dreams. I talked about air conditioning units and long workdays. Somehow, she made me feel interesting. For a man who'd spent a decade covered in dust and sweat, that meant a lot. She looked expensive, sounded ambitious, and carried herself like a star. I mistook attention for admiration. Our first date was at an upscale restaurant she picked herself. She ordered champagne and lobster before even glancing at the menu. When the bill came, she didn't reach for her purse. I told myself she was just traditional. She told me she liked men who took care of things. I didn't realize she meant that literally. Within weeks, she was at my place more than her own. She filled the house with candles, throw pillows, and designer bags. She said she was creating an aesthetic. She took photos of my kitchen and posted them online like they were hers. I thought it was harmless. I liked seeing her happy. She called me her rock. I called her my light. 6 months later, she moved in. That's when things started to change. She said the house was too small, too plain, too boring for her audience. She said my truck was outdated, and my clothes looked too working class. I laughed it off at first. Then she started making fun of what I did for a living. "You fix air conditioners," she'd say. "Not exactly a CEO." It stung, but I stayed quiet. I was in love, or maybe just in denial. She spent money like it burned holes in her hands. Every week it was new clothes, new skincare, new daycare. She called it investing in her brand. I called it insanity. When I mentioned budgeting, she called me controlling. When I worked late, she said I was neglecting her dreams. I thought if I worked harder, she'd respect me more. Instead, the more I provided, the less she valued it. She surrounded herself with other influencers and yoga coaches. They called themselves goddesses and talked about manifesting luxury. They told her she deserved more than a man with dirty hands. She started to believe them. The woman who once said she loved my drive now called me predictable. I didn't realize it yet, but I was financing my own humiliation. While I was out fixing broken air systems, she was busy breaking our marriage. I thought she was just lost. But she wasn't lost. She was looking for an upgrade. The dinner that changed, everything started like any other night. Madison said we were meeting her college friends downtown. She picked the most expensive steakhouse in Lexington. I wore my best shirt, clean jeans, polished boots, nothing fancy. She looked me up and down and sighed. "You couldn't dress better for once. You look like a mechanic." I tried to laugh, but my stomach tightened. On the drive there, she took selfies, complaining about my outfit in captions. By the time we arrived, I already felt like an embarrassment. Her friends were all dressed like magazine covers. There was Ashley and her banker husband Trevor. Then Megan with her new boyfriend, a pharmaceutical rep. I smiled, shook hands, tried to blend in. Dinner started fine, polite conversation, laughter, small talk. Trevor talked about his promotion. Ashley bragged about a new condo. Madison sipped wine and waited for her moment. When they asked what I did, she smiled too sweetly. "He fixes air conditioners," she said. "Not he owns a company. Not he built it from scratch. Just he fixes air conditioners." The words hung in the air like a bad smell. I tried to correct her gently. "Actually, I run Blue Ridge Climate Solutions. We manage commercial accounts." She cut me off with a fake laugh. "Basically, he crawls through attics and tells people their compressors are dead." Everyone laughed nervously. I felt my face burn. Even Megan looked down at her plate. Trevor cleared his throat, pretending to check his phone. I wanted to disappear. Madison wasn't done. "I keep telling him to get a real job, something professional, you know." My jaw clenched so tight it hurt. No one said a word. Finally, I excused myself to get some air. Outside, I leaned against my truck, trying to breathe. That's when Megan followed me. "That was brutal," she said quietly. She's been different lately, always talking about leveling up. I asked what that meant. She joined this yoga group. They call themselves goddesses. They think blue-collar men hold them back. I nodded, staring at the pavement. When I walked back inside, Madison didn't even notice. She was laughing, glowing, owning the table like she'd won something. On the way home, she scrolled through photos from dinner. "Those turned out perfect," she said. I didn't answer. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. I built a business from sweat and sacrifice. I gave her everything she ever wanted. But none of it was enough. She wanted a man with money, not a man with hands that worked for it. For the first time, I saw her clearly. Not as my wife. Not as my partner. But as someone rehearsing her next escape. That dinner wasn't just humiliating. It was the warning shot before the betrayal. After that dinner, something inside me broke. I stopped defending her behavior and started watching. Her phone was always face down now. She took it to the bathroom, the shower, even to bed. She said she was working on her brand strategy. But her brand smelled like cologne that wasn't mine. She began dressing differently, bolder, more expensive. New lingerie I never saw her wear for me. Trips to Louisville twice a week for business meetings. She came home late, glowing, laughing to herself. I wanted to believe her. But my gut knew the truth before my eyes did. Then one morning, I got a text from an unknown number. "Hey Ethan, I think you should see this." It was a photo from Instagram. Madison at a fancy restaurant, holding a glass of wine. Across from her sat a man in a tailored suit, hand on her arm. The caption read, "Dinner with my business partner, living my best life." His name was Blake Harrison, owner of several luxury car dealerships. Divorced, wealthy, flashy. I scrolled through her page and saw his name everywhere. Heart emojis, compliments, flirty replies. I felt my chest tighten until I could barely breathe. That night, she came home smelling like expensive whiskey. "How was your meeting?" I asked. She smiled. "Amazing, life-changing." I nodded and walked away before I said something I'd regret. The next day, I called a private investigator. His name was Tom. He was ex-police, quiet, efficient, expensive. I told him I needed proof. Photos, videos, dates. 2 weeks later, he handed me a thick folder. Inside were pictures of Madison and Blake at 3 restaurants. Holding hands, kissing in parking lots. Videos of them entering hotels together in the afternoon. Receipts for rooms paid in cash by Blake Harrison. There were even shots of them shopping for lingerie. She was trying on pieces while he paid at the counter. My hands shook as I flipped through the pages. Every lie she told me now had a timestamp. Tom looked at me carefully. "What do you want to do with this?" I said, "End it, but I'll do it my way." That night, she came home smiling, full of stories about her wellness project. I nodded, pretending to listen. Inside, I was already planning my next move. I backed up every message and copied every receipt. Screenshots of texts where she called me boring and predictable. Messages where she told Blake, "He's dead weight. I'm ready for my real life." I saved them all in a folder named Truth. For months, I'd been blind. Now I could see clearly. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was using me to fund her fantasy. And when the time came, I wasn't going to confront her with anger. I was going to bury her with evidence. Quietly, completely. And she would never see it coming. The next morning, I walked into a law firm downtown with the folder in my hands. The receptionist called his name. "Mr. Miller will see you now." David Miller was the best divorce attorney in the state. He listened as I told him everything from start to finish. When I handed him the folder, he whistled softly. "This is gold," he said. "She spent your money on the affair. That's dissipation of marital assets." He explained that meant she owed the marriage every dollar she wasted. Hotel rooms, gifts, lingerie, dinners. All of it could be traced and charged back. He told me we'd hit her with a full forensic audit. Every statement, every transaction, every lie. I nodded, feeling a strange calm. For the first time, I wasn't the victim. I was the storm. I left his office with a plan. That weekend, Madison said she was going to a yoga retreat. I knew exactly what that meant. As soon as her car disappeared, I went to work. First stop, the bank. I moved every cent from our joint account to one in my name only. I left her exactly $800, half of what she brought in. Second, I called the car company. The Lexus lease was under my name. I canceled it immediately. Then I shut off her phone plan, credit cards, gym memberships, and streaming accounts. Every luxury she had was one I paid for. Not anymore. Finally, I sent a package to Blake's wife, Karen. Inside were photos, screenshots, hotel receipts, everything. And a note that said, "Thought you should know where your money's going." By Sunday evening, Madison came home glowing. "Best retreat ever," she said. I smiled. "That's great, honey. Check your phone. The bank keeps texting me." She frowned, opened her app and went pale. "What happened to our money?" I leaned back. "I moved mine. You have what you earned." She laughed nervously. "You can't do that. We're married." I handed her an envelope. She opened it with shaking hands. Divorce papers. Her face drained of color. "Why are you doing this to me?" I spread the photos on the table. She froze. Every picture, every text, every lie. She started crying, begging, denying, then screaming. I stayed calm. "It's all there. The lawyers will handle the rest." She tried to threaten me with court, alimony, revenge. Then I showed her the evidence of her spending. Lingerie receipts, hotel bills, credit card records. Her voice cracked. "You can't prove any of that." I looked her in the eye. I already did. Then I told her about Karen. How she filed for divorce that morning. How Blake lost everything. And how Karen's lawyer was coming for Madison next. She collapsed, sobbing, saying she had nowhere to go. I stood up, opened the door and pointed outside. "Then start walking." That night, she packed her bags and left. No car, no money, no empire. Just consequences. 3 weeks passed before I heard from her again. An unknown number flashed on my phone late one night. When I answered, her voice trembled. "Ethan, I need your help, please." I stayed silent. She said she was living in a shelter downtown. She'd lost her apartment. Her friends were gone. Her credit cards were dead. She said she hadn't eaten a proper meal in days. I asked what happened to Blake. She choked up. His wife took everything. The dealerships, the houses, even his cars. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. She begged to meet in person. "I know I messed up. I just want to talk." I told her she could talk right then. She started crying harder. "I made a mistake. I thought I wanted more, but I lost everything." I told her she didn't lose everything. She threw it away. She said we could fix it, start over, try therapy. I laughed quietly. "You didn't want a husband. You wanted a sponsor." She went silent for a long moment. Then she whispered, "I still love you." "No," I said. "You loved what I gave you." I asked her one question. "If Blake still had his money, would you be calling me now?" She didn't answer. That was all I needed to hear. I told her to get a job. McDonald's, Walmart, anywhere. She gasped. "I can't work there. I have a reputation." I almost laughed. "You don't have a reputation anymore, just regrets." She begged again, voice breaking, but I hung up. I blocked her number. For the first time in years, my phone stayed silent. No fake emergencies, no demands, no lies. The house felt peaceful. Every room cleaner, lighter, freer. I started sleeping through the night again. Business was booming. I hired 2 more technicians and upgraded my trucks. I bought a new house out in the hills. Big windows, quiet mornings. Sometimes, I'd catch myself thinking about her. Not because I missed her, but because I couldn't believe I ever let her convince me I was small. 6 months later, I saw Ashley at the grocery store. She looked awkward, nervous. She said Madison was working at a call center outside Louisville. Living in a trailer with 3 roommates. No car, no followers, no empire. Blake was broke too. His wife's lawyer cleaned him out completely. The man who promised her a luxury life was now jobless and alone. I thanked Ashley for the update and walked away. Driving home, I rolled the window down and breathed in the cold air. For the first time, it didn't smell like stress or regret. Just peace. Some people chase better, until they lose good. Madison learned that the hard way. As for me, I didn't just survive her betrayal. I turned it into freedom. And freedom, I learned, is the sweetest revenge of all. I still think about her sometimes, but only as a lesson. Not in anger, not in love, just truth. She taught me that beauty without gratitude is hollow. That success means nothing if you share it with the wrong person. I built everything once before, and I can build again. But this time, I'll guard my peace like treasure. I stopped looking for validation in someone else's eyes. I started finding it in my own reflection. The nights are quiet now. No fights, no lies, no pretending to be enough. Just the hum of the world outside and the sound of my own breathing. People ask if I'd ever take her back. The answer is simple. You don't rebuild with someone who burned your house down. You learn, you grow, you move forward. She wanted to upgrade her life, but she downgraded her soul. And me, I kept my dignity, my business, and my peace. Some call it revenge. I call it justice. Because sometimes the best ending isn't winning someone back. It's watching them fade into the past while you finally live free.